Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Hope everybody is having a good week. Happy first day of fall if you're watching today on Tuesday. So I'm back. I am going to be giving us a short recap of chapter 4 today, even though according to our schedule we're on chapter 5 this week because again, real life, this is where I'm at. I'm playing catch up, but I am determined to see this through. I'm really motivated because we're so close. We literally have one more. Once we get through chapter 5, we have one more chapter 6. Next week is the finishing line. So anyway, this is going to be a random jumble. I'm probably not going to use this video. It's probably just like a processing video, and then I'll go back and do a more polished one, but just in case that doesn't happen, excuse how jumbled it is, and also the play kitchen in the background. So chapter 4, y'all, it took me a while to kind of get into this one and wrap my head around it. I was not really jiving with what she was saying at first, but now that I've read through it and also listened, because I got my library has the free audiobook for download. Now that I've listened through it a little bit, it's making more sense. It's clicking, and I do think there's some really good stuff in here. So the two major things she teaches about in chapter 4 are mental contrasting, which is an exercise that is supposed to increase your motivation and the likelihood that you will work toward and achieve a goal. Mental contrasting, and implementation intentions, which are kind of these guardrails designed to keep you on track and help you get around obstacles that are inevitably going to come up when you're pursuing your goal. So I'm just going to kind of break down what both of those are based on my understanding. Mental contrasting took me a little while to really grab onto what she was saying, because I just kind of felt like it felt kind of nebulous, but I think I've got a pretty good grip on it. So here's my take, what I take away from it. Mental contrasting, the first step of it is basically visualization. I meant to look up the podcast episodes beforehand, and I didn't, but Allie has at least one, if not two or more, really good podcast episodes on visualization and just how that's a tool that really helps her with her goal setting and achieving. So step 1 of mental contrasting is visualization. You're supposed to think about a specific goal that you have in mind, and then just really focus on visualizing how it will feel if you achieve it, if you're there where you want to be. That's step 1. But in the chapter, Dr. Judy talks about how a lot of times this is kind of the only tool that people are given to try to increase their motivation, just that first part of visualizing where you want to be. The second part, maybe this was the problem I had with it. The second part is kind of a downer, and it can kind of seem like fixating on the negative, but I think you can use it in a positive way. So the first part is visualizing what will happen when you reach your goal. The second part, though, is just as important, and it's visualizing what it will be like if you don't reach your goal, and thinking about the things in your life that could be obstacles that could keep you from getting there. So it's kind of like you do your fantasizing about what things will be like if you achieve your goal. And then step 2 is your reality check of well, what is it going to feel like if you don't achieve it? And what are the things that could get in your way? And so if you stopped there and dwelled on that, I think that would be kind of a bummer. But the point of it is, you're supposed to try to connect the dots between this is where I want to be and this is where I am. And while I want to think positively and believe in myself to get there, I need an action plan to deal with where I'm at today, because I can't just magically will myself to be over here. So she calls it, I think she refers to it as that, as connecting the dots between where you want to be and where you are now. I'm going to glance down at my notes and see if there was a third part to that. The contrasting. Yeah, it's the visualization. Helps you be realistic about your goals. I think that was the point that I wanted to make. It's a tool to help you be realistic, but not pessimistic. So you don't want to fixate so much on the obstacles that you think there's no point. It's more like saying, instead of being super pessimistic and kind of just saying, well, there's obstacles, so there's no point. It's it's more like saying, there are going to be some obstacles, so I need an action plan and I need some tools to help me. So I hope that makes sense. Once I was able to kind of start thinking about it more in that way, I got a little bit more on board with that second part of like focusing on your obstacles. So that is mental contrasting. And she says the point of mental contrasting, the way that it increases your motivation, is that it creates that cognitive dissonance. It's just an established fact from studies. You know, I'm saying this super vaguely. I haven't like read the studies or anything, but in this book, she cites several times that it's just an established thing in the scientific community that there's cognitive dissonance is when you believe one thing in your head and you see something else playing out in the world. And you really want what you believe in your head and what you're seeing and observing and like participating in the world to match, to be the same. So you look for evidence to confirm your biases, your thoughts, your beliefs. And that's like a whole other video that I want to do, because that's just like a rabbit hole that we could go down in terms of how that relates to goals and self-sabotage and all that. But the point of mental contrasting is that you visualize where you really want to be, and you kind of hold that as like your belief of where you can go. And then you visualize you acknowledge, I guess you could say, how different things are where you currently are at and what the obstacles are. And that creates that cognitive dissonance. And that gives your brain this push of like, I'm seeing things here in my head, and in real life, they're down here. So I want to bridge that gap. So that's how it's supposed to increase motivation. And like I said, I think done in the right way, I'm sure it probably can. But if you're like me, it might just take you some, I don't know, framing thinking about the obstacles in kind of a more positive way, to not get stuck there. So I'll go ahead and move on to implementation intentions, because it's getting long. We just hit 7 minutes. Implementation intentions, I think I've heard of this before from somewhere besides this book, but it's basically, it's if-then. If this happens, then I will do X. So if/when circumstances arise, I will do this. And she describes it like a fire drill. Like you're trying to train yourself. You're trying to think of your specific situational triggers. I'll give you an example, because I learn better from examples than just describing it. In the book, she's talking about a man who really wants to lose weight to be healthier, and he has trouble with constant snacking. So he sets up implementation intentions around, if I am at home and I have the temptation to snack, then I will blank. And they work better the more narrow and specific you make them. So he started out with something really broad. If I'm at home and I get the urge to snack, I'll paint instead, because he really likes to paint. That's kind of broad. And if it's crunch time and you're like sitting there and watching TV and you get the urge to get up and go to the pantry and get a snack, and you think to yourself, oh, if I get the urge to snack, I'll paint. But what am I going to paint, and where's all my stuff? And like, that's going to take a long time to get up and go upstairs and get it out of the studio. Like you're already done. You're already halfway to the pantry. So you need to make them really, really specific. So he changed it to, if I'm at home and I get the urge to snack, I will grab my sketchbook out of my bag and start sketching a car. I don't know. That's probably not exactly what it says, but you get the point of like how specific it needs to be. Like I'll grab my sketchbook out of my work bag and start sketching. So for me, I'm just going to make one up off the top of my head. If it's past 9 p.m. and I get the temptation to grab my phone and open social media, I don't even know what's a good one. Like go check in with my husband and see what he's doing. I don't know. Clearly I didn't think about that ahead of time, but I'm just trying to give you like a real example of a situation where I know my self-sabotage triggers are late at night, low energy, low like mental activity going on because I'm wiped out from the day, and my self-sabotage is I open up my phone and an hour goes by and I'm like, I am doing nothing and I could be sleeping. Anyway, I won't bore y'all with that because I've already talked about that so many times, but that's just like a quick example of an implementation intention. It's if X situation arises, then I will do Y. And you're just kind of helping train yourself for when obstacles do come, you have a plan in place to do something about it. And there's so much more stuff I could get into. I love how she calls it an exit strategy. That really stuck with me. She calls implementation intentions are an exit strategy when self-sabotage triggers come up. So I hope that's helpful to think about it that way. There's more like nitty gritty details that I could get into, but this is already 10 minutes. I don't really want to go over that because, that just feels long to me. But yeah, and I think I am just going to put this video up for you guys, because if I don't and I try to wait around and do another one, then it might be like 2 or 3 more days and we'll be like already a week behind. So, yeah, mental contrasting, implementation intentions. I hope that was at least somewhat helpful. If you have a question about something in the chapter, like if you don't have the book, you're not reading, or you are reading and you just want to like chat about it, drop it in the comments. And I will do my best to get us caught up so that by the end of this week, we've got a recap and a little bit of discussion around chapter 5 so that we can start fresh next week, our last week, with chapter 6. Okay, guys, talk to you soon.